There are few religious leaders in America whose face is as instantly recognizable as Joel Osteen's. Every week, millions of people tune in to hear his message of hope. His books have topped bestseller lists. His sermons have reached more than 100 countries. Inside Houston's massive Lakewood Church, thousands gather every weekend believing they will hear words capable of changing their lives. To supporters, Joel Osteen represents optimism. To critics, he represents something entirely different. But recently, Joel Osteen reveals the real reason he wants it to end. Those words immediately sparked confusion. Was he talking about his ministry, his career, his life in the public eye, or something far more personal? For years, Osteen has carefully avoided becoming known as a controversial preacher. He rarely speaks in anger. He almost never responds aggressively to criticism. Instead, he has built an entire ministry around encouragement, faith, and believing that tomorrow can be better than today. So when people believed he had finally admitted he wanted it to end, many wondered what could possibly have pushed one of America's most positive public figures to that point. The answer, however, is more complicated than a headline suggests. Because behind the smiling television personality is a man who has spent decades carrying enormous expectations, navigating constant public scrutiny, facing criticism from every direction, and leading one of the largest churches in the world. Over the next few minutes, we're going to uncover exactly what Joel Osteen actually said, the personal experiences that may have shaped his thinking, the pressures and emotional moments behind those remarks, and the truth behind a headline that has generated enormous curiosity. And by the end, you may discover that the real story isn't about giving up at all. But before we get there, we have to understand the remarkable journey that brought Joel Osteen to this moment. Because none of this makes sense without knowing where his story truly began. Joel Scott Osteen was born on March 5, 1963, in Houston, Texas. Long before he became one of the world's most recognizable pastors, he grew up surrounded by ministry. His father, John Osteen, founded Lakewood Church in 1959 with only a small group of believers. Over the decades, that tiny congregation steadily expanded. Unlike many churches that remained local, Lakewood developed into an international ministry through television broadcasts, reaching audiences far beyond Texas. Growing up in that environment, Joel witnessed firsthand what it meant to dedicate a life to faith. Yet surprisingly, preaching wasn't initially his dream. After graduating from high school, he briefly attended Oral Roberts University, studying radio and television communications. He didn't stay long. Instead, he returned to Houston to help behind the scenes. For nearly 17 years, Joel worked almost entirely out of public view. While his father preached to growing crowds, Joel focused on television production. He produced weekly broadcasts, managed technical operations, and helped expand Lakewood's media presence. Ironically, the man who would later become famous for speaking to millions spent much of his early ministry avoiding the spotlight. By his own account, he felt more comfortable behind a camera than standing in front of one. His father repeatedly encouraged him to preach. Joel repeatedly declined. In interviews over the years, he has explained that he simply didn't see himself as a preacher. He believed others were more qualified. He wasn't naturally drawn to public speaking. Instead, he remained committed to supporting the ministry from behind the scenes. Everything changed in January 1999. John Osteen unexpectedly passed away after suffering a heart attack. The loss devastated the family. Beyond the emotional grief came an enormous question. Who would lead Lakewood Church? Many assumed another experienced minister would step into the role. Instead, Joel Osteen delivered his first sermon only days before his father's death, a message his father had strongly encouraged him to give. Within weeks, he accepted leadership of the church. Few could have predicted what happened next. Attendance exploded. What had already been a large congregation became one of the biggest churches in the United States. Eventually, Lakewood Church moved into Houston's former Compaq Center, once home to the NBA's Houston Rockets. The transformation symbolized the extraordinary growth of the ministry. The arena that once hosted basketball games now welcomed thousands of worshipers every weekend. Television audiences grew dramatically. Broadcasts expanded across the globe. Joel's calm delivery, optimistic outlook, and emphasis on hope resonated with viewers who often felt overwhelmed by daily struggles. Rather than focusing heavily on judgment or condemnation, his sermons centered on encouragement. He frequently reminded audiences that setbacks weren't permanent, that better days could still lie ahead, that faith could change perspectives even before circumstances changed. Whether someone agreed with his theology or not, there was little doubt his communication style reached an enormous audience. His influence soon extended beyond the church itself. In 2004, he published Your Best Life Now. The book became a publishing phenomenon. It spent years on bestseller lists. More books followed. Titles like Become a Better You, It's Your Time, and Think Better, Live Better sold millions of copies worldwide. His message expanded beyond Sunday mornings. It became part of bookstores, podcasts, conferences, radio programs, and television networks. At home, Joel often presented a picture of stability. He and his wife, Victoria Osteen, became one of the most recognizable couples in American ministry. Victoria took on an increasingly visible leadership role, frequently speaking alongside her husband. Together they raised 2 children while balancing extraordinary public responsibilities. To supporters, they represented consistency, a family united by faith. But public success often hides private pressure. As Lakewood Church grew larger, expectations grew with it. Every sermon would be analyzed, every interview dissected, every public appearance discussed online. Unlike many local pastors whose audiences remain within a community, Joel Osteen's words reached millions. That kind of visibility comes with enormous weight. One sentence can become a headline. One comment can circulate around the world in minutes. Supporters praised his positive approach. Critics questioned it. Some theologians argued that his sermons emphasized encouragement while giving less attention to subjects like suffering, repentance, or difficult biblical themes. Others defended him, saying his calling was to inspire people who had nearly lost hope. The debate followed him for years. Then came moments that intensified public scrutiny even further. One of the most widely discussed controversies occurred after Hurricane Harvey struck Houston in 2017. As catastrophic flooding devastated communities, criticism spread online regarding Lakewood Church's initial availability as a shelter. The church later opened its doors and stated that flooding and safety concerns had affected operations. But by then public criticism had already become international news. For many observers, it became one of the defining controversies of Joel Osteen's ministry. Supporters argued that misinformation had fueled much of the backlash. Critics believed more could have been done sooner. The discussion continued long after the floodwaters disappeared. Years later, another unexpected event drew worldwide attention. In 2021, workers discovered cash and checks hidden inside a wall during renovations at Lakewood Church. The discovery quickly made headlines because the money appeared connected to a theft reported years earlier. Although investigators looked into the matter, Joel Osteen himself was not accused of involvement. Still, once again, his church found itself dominating news coverage. Incidents like these illustrate a reality many people never fully consider. Leading one of the world's largest churches means every challenge becomes public. Every misunderstanding becomes a headline. Every criticism grows louder because of the size of the audience watching. Yet throughout these moments, Joel Osteen largely maintained the same public demeanor. He continued preaching, continued writing, continued traveling, continued smiling. But even the calmest public figure's experience burdens the audience cannot always see. For years, Joel has occasionally spoken about pressure, opposition, criticism, and the emotional weight that comes with leadership. Those remarks would eventually become central to understanding why certain headlines claimed he wanted something to finally end. But before anyone could understand those comments, another series of personal reflections began revealing just how exhausting life under constant public scrutiny can become. And those reflections would bring us much closer to discovering what Joel Osteen actually meant. As the years passed, Joel Osteen found himself carrying a responsibility that few people could truly understand. Leading one of the largest churches in the world meant that every sermon, every interview, and even every moment of silence could become the subject of public debate. While his supporters continue to see him as a source of hope and encouragement, Osteen has openly acknowledged that life in such a visible position comes with emotional challenges that are rarely seen from the outside. In numerous sermons and interviews, Joel has spoken about the reality of criticism. He has explained that when millions of people know your name, it becomes impossible to satisfy everyone's expectations. Some critics have argued that his messages focus too heavily on optimism and personal success, while others have questioned why he avoids taking strong public positions on political or cultural controversies. Osteen has consistently responded by saying that he believes his calling is to help people discover hope through faith rather than becoming involved in every public debate. He has admitted that criticism can be painful, especially in the early years of his ministry. Like anyone else, he says negative comments can affect him. However, he eventually realized that allowing public opinion to control his emotions would make it impossible to fulfill the mission he believed God had given him. Over time, he learned to focus less on pleasing everyone and more on remaining faithful to the purpose he felt called to pursue. Another burden Joel has discussed publicly is the enormous responsibility of succeeding his father, John Osteen. For nearly 17 years, Joel had worked quietly behind the scenes producing Lakewood Church's television broadcasts. Public speaking was never his ambition. In fact, he has often shared that he repeatedly declined his father's invitations to preach because he simply did not believe he was qualified. Everything changed after John Osteen's sudden death in 1999. Almost overnight, Joel became the leader of a church with thousands of members and a growing international audience. Looking back, he has admitted that he often wondered whether he was capable of carrying such a responsibility. Instead of trying to imitate his father, he slowly developed his own style, one centered on encouragement, resilience, and believing that difficult seasons do not last forever. The pressure only increased as Lakewood Church expanded. Every weekend, thousands gathered inside the former Compaq Center in Houston, while millions more watched through television broadcasts and online platforms. That level of visibility meant that every decision was examined. Events such as Hurricane Harvey in 2017 and the criticism surrounding Lakewood Church's response brought intense media attention. Although the church later explained its actions and eventually opened its doors to those in need, the controversy demonstrated how quickly public perception could shape the narrative. Joel has also spoken about another emotional burden that rarely receives headlines: the personal stories he hears every week. Families struggling with illness, parents grieving the loss of children, couples facing broken relationships, individuals battling depression, addiction, or financial hardship. He has said these encounters remind him that behind every smiling face is someone carrying a hidden burden. Those conversations reinforce why he continues preaching messages of hope, even when he himself feels the weight of leadership. Throughout his ministry, Osteen has repeatedly encouraged people not to allow temporary hardships to define their future. He often tells audiences that seasons of difficulty eventually pass, and that faith means trusting God even when circumstances remain uncertain. That message has become one of the defining themes of his preaching, but it has also led some people to misunderstand certain comments he has made about enduring difficult seasons. Then, in recent years, a handful of remarks from sermons and interviews began circulating online. Stripped of their full context, they produced dramatic headlines suggesting that Joel Osteen had finally confessed he wanted it to end. For many readers, those headlines implied he was talking about his ministry, his public life, or even his desire to step away from leadership. But that was not what the public record actually shows. To understand what Joel Osteen truly meant, it is essential to examine his complete statements, not just a single phrase pulled from a sermon or interview. And once those words are placed back into their original context, the meaning becomes very different from the story the headlines were trying to tell. By the time headlines claiming that Joel Osteen wanted it to end had spread across social media and video platforms, many people assumed he had made a shocking confession about his ministry or his future. But when those claims are compared with the public record, a different picture emerges. There is no verified interview, sermon, book, or public statement in which Joel Osteen says he wants his ministry to end, wants to stop preaching, or wants to walk away from leading Lakewood Church. Instead, the phrase appears to be the result of sensational headlines that removed his words from their original context. Over the years, Joel has frequently spoken about things he hopes will eventually end, but they are not his faith, his calling, or his commitment to ministry. In sermon after sermon, he has talked about wanting seasons of suffering to come to an end. He has prayed for people enduring illness, financial hardship, broken relationships, anxiety, and grief. His recurring message is that difficult seasons are temporary and that God can bring people into a new chapter of healing and restoration. He has also acknowledged that criticism and opposition are realities of public life. Rather than wishing his ministry would end, he has said he hopes unnecessary division, bitterness, and hatred will not define how people treat one another. In his books and messages, he repeatedly encourages forgiveness over resentment and hope over despair. One theme that appears consistently throughout his ministry is perseverance. Joel often reminds his audience that every person faces seasons where they feel exhausted, discouraged, or misunderstood. Instead of giving in to those feelings, he encourages people to continue moving forward one step at a time. He has admitted that leadership carries heavy responsibilities, but he also says those responsibilities are part of the calling he accepted after his father's death. That perspective has remained remarkably consistent for more than 2 decades. Supporters see this as evidence of resilience. They argue that despite constant public scrutiny, criticism, and controversy, Osteen has continued to focus on encouraging people rather than responding to every accusation directed at him. Critics remain unconvinced. Some continue to question his theology, his emphasis on positive thinking, or the size and finances of his ministry. Others believe he should address controversial issues more directly. Those debates are likely to continue as long as he remains one of the most recognizable pastors in America. But regardless of where someone stands, the available public evidence does not support the sensational claim that Joel Osteen has announced he wants his ministry, or his life as a pastor, to end. Instead, his own words consistently point towards something very different. He wants fear to end. He wants hopelessness to end. He wants people to stop believing that their mistakes define their future. And he wants seasons of pain to give way to healing and renewed faith. Those ideas have formed the foundation of nearly every sermon he has preached since stepping into leadership in 1999. Today, Joel Osteen continues to lead Lakewood Church alongside his wife, Victoria. His weekly services are still broadcast around the world, his books continue to reach new readers, and his message remains centered on hope, perseverance, and trusting God through life's uncertainties. Whether one agrees with his preaching or not, his story offers a reminder of how easily a headline can shape public perception. A single phrase, separated from its full context, can create an entirely different narrative than the one that was actually intended. In an age where dramatic titles travel faster than complete stories, taking the time to examine verified interviews, sermons, and reliable reporting becomes more important than ever. Joel Osteen's journey has never been free from criticism or controversy. He has experienced personal loss, immense responsibility, relentless public attention, and moments that tested both his leadership and his faith. Yet through it all, his central message has remained largely unchanged. Difficult seasons do not last forever, and hope is worth holding on to even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson from this story. Before accepting a sensational headline as truth, it's worth asking one more question. What was actually said? Sometimes the real story is quieter than the headline. Sometimes it's more thoughtful. And sometimes, understanding the full context changes everything. If this video helped you see the story from a new perspective, remember that the truth is often found beyond the headline. Keep asking questions, seek reliable information, and never stop looking for the full picture. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fact-based stories that uncover the truth behind the headlines.